Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to talk about kind of, I guess, the resurgence of the theaters versus studios feud that's been going on. Even though Universal and AMC seem to have kind of made nice. It looks like Disney has kind of thrown another monkey wrench into the whole system. Because here's the thing. A lot of people, and I went over the Universal deal that they have with AMC theaters with the 17 days in theaters before it goes to video on demand, and how basically the deal makes absolutely no sense from a business perspective between those two companies unless it's just literally Universal kind of throwing AMC Studios a bone. That's the only thing that really makes sense. But Disney announced yesterday that they are going to send the movie Mulan directly to video on demand, directly to Disney Plus specifically. And reportedly what it will be is it will be a $30 charge that you will pay in order to watch the film early, or basically when it would be released. However, you can watch it however many times you want after that. It's basically kind of like a digital purchase. And the $30 price tag is being criticized. Here's my only thing is that because Disney is choosing to release this on a video-on-demand platform, they need to jack the price up because they need to substitute what they would be getting from a theatrical run, because they're not going to get the type of money to reimburse this kind of a film. Again, I've talked about this in videos before, where Mulan is very much built for a theatrical run as a movie. It's an over $200 million movie. You're probably not going to get that back on VOD. And to be honest, I'm actually kind of shocked it isn't a $30 rental, like a 24-hour or a 48-hour rental. And then you have to pay another $30 to watch it again, because that would be kind of what I would expect out of Disney. So this is actually a little bit kind of fair to the consumer, which is rare for them. But as usual, because this is something that ultimately takes that film away from theaters, they're naturally pissed. And again, this has kind of riled everybody up again. We haven't heard anything, as far as I know, from AMC or Regal or Showtime or any of the other theater chains in the United States. However, the UK cinemas are very upset about this because they were expecting to have Mulan in theaters, and that was going to be a big revenue booster for them. So a lot, and I expect that you'll hear something from NATO, the National Association of Theater Owners. You'll probably hear something from them within the next day or two. You'll probably hear something from maybe AMC or Regal or Showtime or one of the big chains about this, because here's the other thing is that AMC offered this same deal to other studios, and I said this when I was in my previous video. No other studio would be sane enough to take, or not sane enough, would be insane enough to take that type of a deal from a business perspective, and Disney is as cutthroat as you get. So it doesn't surprise me that Disney is going to push this, and it doesn't necessarily surprise me because it's Mulan, because Mulan is a one-off basically for them. They're probably not going to make a Mulan 2 like they're planning on doing with Aladdin already. It's probably going to be a one-off like a lot of their other live-action remakes, so I wouldn't expect it to spawn a lot of sequels. Whereas Black Widow, which was supposed to come out later, is still kind of part of the MCU, even though it's a bit of a standalone. So a lot of people are still interested in that, who are the MCU people, and that's their main crowd they want to get back into theaters, because that's where their big moneymaker is right now because of the absence of Star Wars. So I understand they're not going to compromise on the Marvel films, which means they have to compromise on the live-action remakes. So that makes sense. And also because the development slate on these films is getting pushed back so much because of the pandemic and because of the shutdowns on productions and things like that. So it's kind of it's a bad system in terms of in terms of the way they produce things, because it's more of an assembly line. And the issue with that is that if you jam up the assembly line, what happens? All these projects just kind of pile up behind each other to a point, until you have to actually just start releasing them because it's financially better for you to do it that way. And I think that's where we've come with Mulan. And I think Black Widow could be the next on the chopping block, because Eternals is kind of a bigger one. But the thing is that they know they're probably going to get a good return on investment for Black Widow, whereas they're probably not going to get, or I shouldn't say probably not, but Eternals is a bit more up in the air because it's a completely different and new franchise for the MCU, and it's untested. It's kind of like Guardians in 2014, that type of an idea. It's very much out there. It's very much in the cosmic realm of Marvel. I presume it actually takes place in the past before Endgame and all that stuff ever happened. So there's a lot of new ground that's going to be covered in that, and it's going to be kind of alien to a lot of the other stuff that people have seen. So it's more of an untested property. So I can understand that Black Widow might be on that chopping block, but they don't have 100% faith in Eternals either, or at least I doubt that they do. So there's a weird thing with that. On top of that, they also have their other live-action remake. It's not a live-action remake. It's another animated film that they're coming out with later this year. I believe it's called The Last Dragon. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what it is, but it's from the same kind of animation team behind Lilo and Stitch. So that's the other thing, is that they have this other slate, too, of these animated films, like these Pixar animated stuff, and from their other various animation studios that are also sprinkled in there. So Disney has so many films that are coming out in 1 year, they're just dogpiling on top of each other now because they have no way to release them. So for the UK cinemas, or for any cinema chain, to think that Disney owes them anything, that is completely insane, because they don't care. Disney will do whatever the best business option is. And by the way, after they announced they were releasing Mulan on Disney Plus, their stock shot up for a pretty good amount the next day. So I don't think they're really caring too much about what's happening with AMC and Regal, because the other thing is that, like I reported before, what is it? I believe it's Amazon is just sitting there waiting for those theaters to go defunct and then buy them up. Buy up all the assets out of bankruptcy. I could 100% see that happening, and that makes perfect sense. Because they obviously they want to move into that kind of area as well, because they have the Amazon Prime Video and stuff like that. So there's a lot going into that, where the theaters could be doomed no matter what. They could be absorbed by a larger entity anyway, and this is just kind of the final nail in the coffin. I don't think this will get rid of theaters, though. Here's the thing, is that more studios are going to go to the direct video format right now because it is more profitable than losing money just endlessly advertising these other movies. So it's sometime at some point for Disney, it's going to be more equitable to release it directly on the video on demand, and they're not going to care about the theaters because they care about the bottom dollar. And that's good business. At the same time, I understand the point of view of the theaters, because the theaters need those big tentpole films to get back on their feet once they reopen. So it's kind of it's a bad battle. Again, that's why I was kind of very surprised that Universal and AMC bothered to make a deal, especially a deal that really didn't benefit either side terribly much. Maybe a bit more for the theater side, because they actually get to show the movie in theaters, but Universal held all the cards in that. Just like Disney holds all the cards here. UK cinemas don't have to do anything for them if they don't want to. It's a completely separate company. They do rely on their business, but at the same time, they don't have any chips in the game. They literally have to take what they're given, because the studios will outlast them. The studios can outlast them. They have much more money. They have much more resources, and they hold the product in their hand. And Disney has cranked theaters for years now. Look at the Star Wars stuff where they were shimming out the revenue. Disney got 70% of the revenue. Usually it's 50 or 60. It's usually not 70, but they took 70% of the revenue from Star Wars and only gave the theaters 30% because they knew they could bring in on them because it was a Star Wars film. I don't know why and any of the theater companies at this point think that they have a leg to stand on, unless they're going for a public sympathy angle. If they're trying to do that, then maybe that could be the way to go, because if you cause enough bad PR for some of these larger companies, sometimes they're willing to look certain things, or overlook certain things. Now, here's the other thing, too, is that I don't expect any other studios outside of Disney to take the Universal AMC deal. I think that all the other all the other major studios, which is really more or less just Warner Brothers and Paramount and Sony Pictures and stuff like that, they're not going to take that deal, because they know full well that they hold all the cards, unless they have some kind of sympathy for a theater chain. Or there's some kind of a connection there where they're able to make some kind of a deal that's less on business grounds and more on mutual survival. I kind of get that. but like I said, I don't expect any of the major Hollywood studios to go with that. If they want to release it video on demand, they will release it video on demand, and they will say, "Be damned the theaters, we do not care." Again, like Disney appears to have done, because again, they're not in a bubble. They just saw what happened with AMC and Universal, and they went ahead and did it anyway. So they obviously do not give a single solitary crap about what's happening with the theaters right now. Which again, I don't expect anything different from them. But, this is just the most recent development in this thing, which, again, it seemed like it was kind of dead, and then now this has kind of flared it back up again. But, I want to know what you think. Who do you think is in the right here? Who do you think is in the wrong? Do you think that Disney should release this movie direct on Disney Plus for the $30 charge to get the basically a digital download or whatever, or a digital piece of media? Or do you think that this is just kind of, this is an inevitability, theaters are doomed to die out anyway, or they're doomed to get absorbed by other companies? Like I said, put your thoughts in the comments below. I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?